hello again. Today we're going to make a zucchini feta bake. I will tell you I made a few changes to this because our family is almost 100% dairy free. So it does call for feta, cottage cheese, and cheddar cheese. And really the cheddar cheese is just for the top. So we just skip that altogether. We also skip the cottage cheese when we can. It just kind of lends a creaminess and a little bit of a little twang from that little bit of sour that's in a cottage cheese. So I found that if we just use extra organic feta and a little bit of plain coconut yogurt, the unsweetened kind, for that little bit of sour cream twang, you kind of mix it together and you just add a little bit extra, and it makes the same thing. So I've got my ingredients out here. What we're going to do is pretend that this quinoa is cooking. So I've got some pre-cooked quinoa, which if you're doing your Sunday grain banks, you should have sitting in your fridge and ready to go just like this. It saves 25 to 30 minutes right here. So I just have it sitting in the pan right now. Easily to get this out of the way, all we need to do is add about a tablespoon or so, and it calls for a half a cup of quinoa. Half a cup does us no good in this house, so this is probably more like, a cup and a half cooked, maybe a cup. You add about a tablespoon and a half of organic tomato paste, and about 3/4 a cup of chopped organic parsley. And all we're going to do is really just kind of stir that together. Nothing special about that. What this is the base. We're just going to melt down the tomato sauce, or tomato paste, excuse me, a little bit, and warm it through just a bit. And this just serves as the base. It's kind of a casserole, the zucchini feta bake. The quinoa is just more or less the crust on the bottom of the pan. And it does get a tiny little bit of a crispness around the edges, and it's really, really good. And the recipe calls for bulgur wheat, so you can use that. I don't see why you couldn't use a brown rice, even an amaranth. Any grain will do. We just happen to like quinoa, and I like all of the superfood health benefits that it has. And it's also very, very filling because this is a vegetarian dish. So you want something filling in it because zucchini alone is not going to fill you up. As yummy and healthy as it is, it's not going to fill you up for very long. But having this quinoa as the base will help. Let me just wash my hand. Okay, so now in this pan, and I can't even believe this recipe calls for it, but it says canola oil. And as we all know, canola oil is no good. There's nothing healthy about canola oil. We don't use it in my house. So in my house we use either coconut oil, organic virgin, or you can use organic extra virgin cold pressed olive oil. Today I've got some coconut oil. So we're just going to melt that, get that going kind of over a medium-high heat. Once this all gets going, it goes pretty fast. So I've already got my zucchini. I actually used summer squash too because I like the green and the yellow. So I've got my zucchini pre-sliced. I just use a mandolin so they're all even, kind of like little stacks. We'll break those apart in the pan here. We also have some dried organic Italian seasonings. There's oregano, basil, marjoram, some sea salt, and some black pepper in here. You can use, it calls for 2 teaspoons or so of tamari sauce. Tamari is a fermented version of like a soy sauce that has less sodium in it. Or you can use regular soy sauce, or like me, you can use liquid aminos. This is Bragg's liquid aminos. There are 16 amino acids in here. There's no junk. It is an all-purpose seasoning used in place of any tamari or any soy sauce, but it's solid liquid amino acids. And you can get this just about anywhere these days. So I'm using this today. I have that right here. Garlic, we all know the powers of garlic. Calls for 2 cloves. We laugh at 2 cloves in my house because 2 cloves is nothing. We use at least 4 in everything. The more the better. We like the garlic. There we go. Alright, so we're just going to turn that off. I've got the coconut oil melting. We all know the superpowers of coconut oil. And no, you really honestly don't taste it in your food when you use it. Maybe only the most very sensitive of taste buds will actually taste it, or if you use a ton of it. We actually don't mind the taste of it, so it doesn't bother me one bit. Alright, so we're melting here. So now in here, we've got 1 organic red onion. Onions in general are a superpower as far as the antiviral, antifungal properties. But red onions in particular, because of the purple color, anything colorful is fantastic. So the more colors you can get in, the better. Hence the yellow and the green zucchini. There's no reason why you couldn't add any other vegetable in here if you like. I'll bet you some julienne carrots would probably be delicious. The other things we have going on here are sliced tomatoes, and really they're for the top. And it looks really pretty when you've got like a sliced Roma, kind of real thin. I didn't have any, so I just cut up some organic grape tomatoes. We've also got, in this bowl here, I've got 2 eggs from my chickens beaten. And then I've got the feta cheese, kind of like when you make a lasagna, you mix your ricotta with your eggs. Same thing. I've got the eggs and I've got the feta, and I have the plain coconut yogurt in this one. So we're just going to let that kind of chill out for a couple of minutes. What I will do is this is actually our dinner tonight again, just like the the other videos where the shrimp and everything. But what I'm going to do is assemble this casserole, and I will put it in the oven later. It actually is very, very good the next day, so it makes great leftovers. But I'm going to put it in the oven later, and I will film again when I pull it out so you can see the finished product, and then we'll do a little TV magic for that later. Alright, so we've got the onions and the garlic in here. Also on the top you can do, it says 2 tablespoons of sesame seeds. They get kind of toasty. And any kind of nut or seed is going to be full of good fats, omega-3s, a couple of omega-6s. You're going to have lots of good amino acids. And I just forgot to grab those. Let me grab them. Now these sesame seeds are already toasted, so they're going to get extra nice and yummy, and I'll probably just throw some on the top. I tend not to measure that kind of thing. But it does give the whole dish a really nice little nutty flavor in the background. And anytime you can work in a nut or a seed into meals, you're just going to boost the nutritional value of the entire dish, as well as the flavor. Okay, so those are looking nice and soft. Now we're going to just go the zucchini, and really this recipe, the recipe itself is for 4 to 6, so I mean this is a bigger version because in my house that doesn't do much good, to be honest. And the pan gets real full, but that's okay. See, then these are kind of stacked because they're stuck together. You don't want to try to peel them apart, and we'll do it again when we put it into the prepared dish. All you need is a glass dish. If you just do the original recipe, you can do it in like a normal rectangle, 9 by 13 or whatever, or 9 by 11. I actually have an 11 by 17 over here because that's how much this is going to make. And you grease it. We don't have sprays in my house, so I just drizzle some of the organic olive oil, and then you just take your hand and grease up the pan. Also, our olive oil is an awesome moisturizer, so just rub the extra right into your hands. Alright, so this is just kind of going to mix that in. Clearly, should have used a bigger pan. You're going to take your herbs and your salt and your pepper and just sprinkle that on. And it's going to look like a lot, but it's not. And really, it's such a flavorful and filling dish, and as long as you've got your grain bank going. I also have some brown rice in the fridge too, but I thought I'd stick with the quinoa for this one. Maybe I'll try it with brown rice next time. But as long as you've got your grain bank going and you've already got your grains done, this really doesn't take very much time at all. Using the mandolin to slice the zucchini so they're all evenly sliced means not only does it go faster for you, but that it cooks evenly. Oops, fling in some stuff. Now, if you remember from my last video, the shrimp dish, we don't like our vegetables fully cooked, so we don't want them mushy, especially the zucchini. Getting my kids to eat zucchini. It's not the oldest favorite by any means, but he likes this dish as long as we don't overcook the zucchini, because it's just so flavorful that he doesn't mind it. And I think alongside this you could have a nice salad. You could do a whole grain bread. I'm actually today going to do most likely a naan bread. I have a recipe for an easy naan bread. And I'll probably use some spelt flour in place of some of the organic AP flour, just to bump the whole grain factor. Try to break apart the stacks here as you're going, so they kind of get some of the seasonings kind of everywhere. And really, if you feel like once you get it spread out of the pan, it looks like it needs a little more seasoning, go ahead and put some more in. The topping would have been that the cheddar cheese, and then the tomatoes, and then the sesame seeds, but we're going to skip the cheddar cheese. To be honest, I've had it both ways. To me, it doesn't need all that cheese. All you're doing with the cheese is disrupting your system with the dairy and adding unnecessary fats and sugars and whatnot. So, and being that we're pretty much dairy-free, we just don't do it. So, and you can make your slices as thick or thin as you want. I just do them thin because then it really takes no time at all in the oven. See, now to me that's fine. Everything's kind of mixed in nicely and good to go. We're just going to turn that off. I am going to add a little bit of sea salt to my quinoa base there. You flavor and season as you go when you cook. It's just like tasting. You're going to want to taste as you go and make sure that you've got all your seasonings right, because once you put a casserole together, that's it. You can't undo it and put it back together differently. So just taste as you go. I happen to know what this tastes like already, so I'm not real worried about it. Okay, and here's that pan that we talked about. I just have some olive oil drizzled in the bottom. You're just going to grease it real good. Just kind of go like that. And grease up the sides, because this will come up the sides. See, extra makes a great moisturizer. It might be a little greasy for a minute, but it soaks in right away, especially when your hands are as beat up as mine from work every day. So now to assemble this, we are going to take, I'll just move this so you can see better. We're going to take our pan, and you're going to take your quinoa or whatever grain you choose. If you do use a grain, make sure it is an ancient grain full of good stuff for you. You don't want a processed white rice that has almost zero nutritional value. Okay, and you're just going to kind of press that out into the bottom. It doesn't have to be super even. It can be a little wonky. It's alright. Casseroles are cool like that. And the parsley gives it a really nice, bright flavor. The tomato sauce gives it a rich background. Alright, there, that's good enough. Okay. Get that tomato sauce off my hand there, and then we're going to take your zucchini and your onions and your garlic and just kind of dump it in without making too big of a mess. I've done this before. Okay. And it's already hot, so you don't need to cook it a whole lot. You just kind of want to meld the flavors together, melt up the cheese a little bit. Feta cheese doesn't melt, like a regular cheese, because it's a crumbled, semi-firm cheese. And that's fine, because it doesn't get all gooey and oily. It kind of holds its form a little more. And we do have organic feta cheese, which you can find just about anywhere these days. But like I said, we shop at Woodman's a lot, because our variety there is much, much better, especially when you eat like we do. Okay, and then you're going to take your eggs and your cheese mixture. Sometimes the feta likes to kind of sink to the bottom, so you're going to want to give it a good stir. And you're just, I'll grab my other spatula here so I can get all of it out. You're just going to take and pour it over the top. See all the nice chunks of feta? And I might even go grab my container of feta and put just a little more. Feta's a favorite here. It's kind of got that briny, twangy kind of vibe to it, and we all like that here. So I might actually grab and use just a little more. This is also a little bit bigger dish than I was originally planning on when I did my shopping. And I did plan this. Planning and shopping by menu saves a huge amount of time, and it saves you a lot of money when you're standing there going, I don't know what to do, I don't know what to make, so you kind of buy a little of everything. It will save you a ton of money and a ton of time to just take an hour on the weekend and plan out your meals for the week, at least have a rough structure. That's usually what I do. I plan about 3 meals for the week, and then the in-between days are either leftovers, or sometimes we'll do a breakfast for dinner, or maybe we'll just have BLTs, something like that. But at least you've got a game plan. Having a game plan is very important in saving money and eating healthy. Okay, so now, normally you would go, oh my goodness. Oh my goodness, I forgot to put the tamari sauce into the quinoa. But you're supposed to put your liquid aminos or your tamari or soy sauce into the quinoa mixture in that first step. It's not a big deal. There's so much flavor in here, we won't miss it. But it does add a little something to that quinoa with the tomato sauce. So anyway, so if you have sliced tomatoes, you will lay them out nicely on the top. I've got some quartered baby little cherry tomatoes. And this one is great. It's a wonderful summer dish. If you've got a garden and you grow zucchini and tomatoes, fantastic way to use up all the yumminess in your garden. See, that's how pretty that is. And then if you choose to use the cheddar cheese on top, go ahead. Like I said, I don't think it needs it. And I just don't recommend the overuse of dairy in general for anyone. It's a natural inflammatory. That's why so many people have problems digesting it. So we're just going to skip it, and we're going to go ahead and sprinkle the toasted sesame seeds, which I actually didn't think I was going to like the first time I made this, but I did. So we're going to go ahead and just sprinkle that on. And then all you're going to do is pop this into an oven at 350 for about 40 minutes or so. Usually we just go about 30 because we don't have all that cheese on top or anything that needs to get melted. And let it sit like a lasagna. Let it sit for about 10 minutes before you cut into it. Kind of let it congeal and harden, not harden, but you want it to meld back up. Because if you cut into it when it's piping hot, you're going to lose it all over the place. So just pop it into an oven at 350 for about 30 to 40 minutes. You can cover it in foil if you like, kind of loosely tint it. I've not really found it necessary. The only time I will cover it for maybe the last 10 minutes is if I notice maybe it's browning just a little too much. Zucchini isn't something that I like browned personally, but if that's your thing, go for it. So I will pop this in the oven later, and then I'll be back to show you what it looks like when it's done. But for now, that's our zucchini feta bake, and we'll be back later. Okay, so our casserole has come out. And here's what it looks like. It's all bubbling. Like I said, you're going to want to leave it for about 10 or 15 minutes just to firm back up, and then you should be good to go. So enjoy. I hope you like this episode. We'll see you next time.